Ian Maksin has gained international recognition as a cellist and composer. He has a unique and innovative style, taking the cello well beyond its conventional role. He is a major star of our beautiful city, Chicago. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stanley. Really happy to be here.
You were born in the city of Saint-Petersburg, Russia. Tell us something about the time spent there.
Well, it's a very beautiful and a very special city, but I didn't fully realize that until I moved away and until I had the opportunity to visit at least 24 other big cities around the world. That's when I really fully
What's so special about the atmosphere of this city?
Well, it's a city in Russia, but at the same time, it's not a traditional Russian city.
It's a cultural center.
Very large cultural center. A lot of times, Muscovites don't really like that, but a lot of times it's called the cultural capital of Russia.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a very long time. So definitely, there's a lot of things going on.
You have attended the Nikolai RimskyKorsakov St. Petersburg State Conservatory. They are very famous alumni, among which Pyotr Tchaikovsky, Dmitry Shostakovich, Sergei Prokofiev. How important is the education in this music school for you?
Well, again, just like with St. Petersburg, I didn't fully realize how much what I really gained from it until I was older. And looking back, I'm thinking, it gave me a great deal as far as musicianship is concerned, as far as endurance. We were trained as like athletes, like Olympians in a way.
So that's specific for the Russian school.
It's it's typical for Russian school.
Russian
they're hard on you, and you learn how to be hard on yourself as well. So,
who are the greatest Russian cellists?
Well, the first name that comes to mind is Mstislav Rostropovich. He recently passed away a few years ago, but he was a major musical figure, and not only a musical figure, but a public figure, a humanitarian, a dissident back in the day, and he's always been a huge inspiration for me as a person, as a musician. He had a tremendous incredible amount of energy. He could sleep, go for days and weeks without sleep and perform on a crazy concert schedule, going from city to city, and I'm sort of following
He's another example of the Russian endurance.
Right, exactly, and I'm sort of following his footsteps. I'm touring a great deal these days, and also sometimes on a really crazy schedule. So
you consider yourself an athlete in music?
Yes, to a degree, absolutely. There's a lot of similarities, and I could talk about it for hours.
When did you realize that cello is your major passion in life?
Well, it was a long process, and with ups and downs, and there were several times. First time was when I discovered cello when I was 5 years old through listening to an old record. And that's when I felt something for the cello for the first time and realized that...
You felt attracted?
I felt deep emotion inside me, probably for the first time as a kid.
And then you forgot about it?
No, I didn't forget about it. I asked my parents to get me a cello, and they were very kind. They got me into music school, and they were very supportive. So that was the first time. But then, unfortunately, my first cello teacher was not very good as a teacher. He was a great man, but not very good as a teacher. I hope he's not watching the show.
Why you say so?
But just to be an educator, especially for kids, you have to be able to inspire them without discouraging them. What happened, I got really discouraged. I really did not want to play the cello anymore, and it was like that for quite a few years. But then again, as a teenager, I rediscovered my love for the cello when there was one piece, the Khachaturian Cello Concerto by a great Armenian composer, that I started learning, and it was the same piece that I heard when I was 5 years old. that made me fall in love with the cello. And then as a teenager, I started playing it again. The Cello Concerto for Cello and Orchestra by Aram Khachaturian, a great Armenian composer.
So you owe to this piece your musical career?
I wouldn't say my musical career, but I owe it a great deal of inspiration, and the fact that I'm playing the cello until today. Definitely, I owe it to that piece.
It's not easy to make a living while being a classical cello player, from what I know. How are you able to break into the music industry?
Well, I didn't break into the musical industry as a classical cellist per se, even though I was, I had positions as an orchestra musician with major symphony orchestras, but as a soloist, it didn't happen until later. As a teenager, I was not a child prodigy of any sort. I never won any major competitions. It was not my thing. So it was not until I was well in my 20s that I started pursuing my personal musical voice. And that was actually through blending different genres already. And that's sort of that unique musical style is what got me out there. And
so basically, you're blending classical music with different kind of
with jazz, folk music
genres
from different corners of the world, blues.
And that helped you to gain recognition and to get wider audience.
It helped me find my personal voice, and that unique voice is what resonates with the people, and that's why my audience has grown and is still growing very, very fast.
Success and money, is this the same thing?
No, for me, money and success are two completely different entities. Money for me is just is instrumental or incidental. You can't live without money, obviously, unless you choose to live as a vagabond or some kind of a person, outside society as a monk but success is something different. Success for me is can be measured in how much difference you make in other people's lives and how much inspiration you create for how many people.
Who helps you in your marketing, PR, social network?
Right now I have a large team of people working in different parts of the world. Like in Australia, I have people that are working on the Australia tour. In Europe, I have a whole agency that's doing things for the European tours. In Russia, same thing. But until very recently, I did everything by myself. And still, until today, I do most of the writing, if not all, I do by myself. And many other things, and I pretty much supervise everything, and I consider myself the main mastermind behind all of my campaigns.
Many musicians are better aware of what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve, but not all of them are being able to put that in words so that they can attract people's attention.
Right. Right,
so you need special kind of skills.
Yeah, that's something. It's almost like a hobby for me.
Yeah. One of your hobbies.
One of my hobbies, yes.
Yeah. How many countries have you visited as a performing player?
It's hard to tell. I would say maybe 25 or 30, but I'm planning to visit at least a dozen more this year, the year 18.
What are your next concerts?
Well, I'm performing in Chicago quite a bit for the next month and a half until mid-October. Then I have a big Russian tour from Moscow to Siberia. Then I'm coming back and do some shows in the Midwest and on the East Coast, New York City, Boston. And then I go again to Australia and New Zealand, and almost straight from there I go to Europe. Yeah, a lot of air miles.
Ever been to Australia and New Zealand before?
Never been to Australia and New Zealand. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yes.
And how many languages are you fluent in?
Let's see, Russian, English, French, and Spanish. Russian, English, French, Spanish. fluently, and probably a dozen more languages that I can sing in and can sort of communicate and have basic communication when I go to the country, like ask for directions for coffee, tea, things like that.
Besides playing the cello, you also sing.
Right.
During your performances. What are the best languages for singing?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. It's true, some languages are more suitable than others for singing. For me, right now, Portuguese is my favorite language.
Number one is Portuguese.
My favorite language to sing in, and one of the reasons is that it's so, it's got such interesting phonetics that it makes the language very resonant and really resonates within your mouth for singing and really opens up. So by singing, practicing my singing in Portuguese, it helps me open up in other languages and make my voice grow bigger and more resonant.
Why so many people consider classical music boring?
Well, that's a very good question, because it's not, you don't get this instant gratification of like you get with popular music, that with like this simple harmony of 3 chords and a beat that makes you feel something superficial right away. But with classical music, you really have to get into it. You have to allow yourself.
It's a longer process.
It's a longer process that you have to.
You need patience.
You need patience, and you need commitment to really get deep into it. But once you do,
understanding, maybe.
Yes and no. It's not really that much understanding. Obviously, the more understanding you get, the more you get into it, the more you understand, the more you realize how many different deeper levels there are to it than in simple pop music. And the more you listen, even me today, I listen to Tchaikovsky and Beethoven, Bach especially, and the more you listen, the more you play, the more I practice Bach cello suites, the more I realize how many extra layers there are to it beyond what I already thought.
So not many people are patient enough and committed enough to dig in deep.
It's true.
Into classical music. You never used sheet music during your concerts. Why?
Well, think about actors in theater and movies. You don't see them reciting from a sheet of paper. It's the same thing with
but
music.
their scenes are relatively shorter, and you don't know. I mean, they repeat these scenes many times, and you don't stop and repeat.
But still, there's even an expression to sing from the heart, or to recite by heart. So by heart, from the heart. So it can't really come from the heart unless you do it by heart. For me, that's how it works. Obviously, there are exceptions.
But obviously, you cannot achieve that without a good memory.
True, but that's something that develops. As far as musical memory, obviously that's something that I've developed since I was really young. With remembering lyrics for songs, it's different. For me, it's still work in progress. At first, when I started, consciously memorizing lyrics to a song, it took me probably a month or 2 months to really fully remember the words. But as the time goes by, it becomes quicker. So right now, I can learn a new song probably within 4 days.
You live in a material city, located in a material country, which is part of a material world. Does this make it difficult for you?
As far as Chicago is concerned, I think
as far as the world is concerned,
we
live in a material world.
I think the young generation of people, at least part of this generation, is growing up differently. The young professionals, a lot of young successful people, for them. Also, money is not really the purpose, the final goal of their success.
New generation.
A new breed of people, I would say, and for them, success also equals self-improvement in all areas, in spirituality and creativity. And I'm very fortunate to meet a lot of those people. A lot of them are my regular audience, both in Chicago and worldwide.
Are those people the majority of your audience?
I would say they are a very large portion of my audience. People who...
That's good news, because they're young. And it's good news for the future.
I think so. I think so. And my goal as an artist is to nurture it for them and to inspire them to sort of stay on that track.
How would you briefly define your mission in life and in music?
To make difference and to inspire people. You can't live without inspiration. You need, even to cook a meal, you need inspiration to do it well and to have fun while doing it. And inspiration is especially important for kids and for young people. If you if they are not inspired, they will grow up sad and cynical. And for me, that's actually the biggest mission, is to serve as an inspiration to young people and kids.
You want to do the opposite of what your first teacher did?
Well, in a way. So a lot of not only my teacher, but just yes, I could have used more inspiration as a kid myself.
Your fourth album is called Zarya. Why?
Zarya is, I felt, I've been looking for a word that would be sort of void of some sort of gravitation towards any particular culture, that you wouldn't be able to pinpoint whether it's Slavic or Middle Eastern or...
It's like a cosmopolitan word?
Very cosmopolitan word. And
what does it mean?
It actually means different things in different languages. In Slavic languages, including Russian, Bulgarian, it means, back in the old times, there was a goddess. They were actually twin goddesses of sunrise and sunset.
Okay.
And in Persian and Arabic and Hebrew, and all of those languages, it also means something similar. A brilliant woman or a princess, things like that. So it's just a very sort of, I just fell in love with that word, and I felt like it stood for what the album was about, for like this worldwide blend that would bring different cultures, blend and bring different cultures together.
From what I know, your album is very successful and very well accepted.
Well, it just came out a couple of months ago, but it's been going really well, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. At the end, I want to ask you for a special musical treat for our viewers.
Absolutely. I'll be delighted to play a couple of compositions. One of them is going to be from my latest album, Zarya. I'm going to play a Macedonian folk song called Jovano Jovanke. And the second composition is the encore that I've been recently playing after virtually every performance, and people are going absolutely crazy about it. It's a popular song that's been playing on the radio called Despacito.
Serce moje Jovano.